moly, it's July 31st. I don't understand quite how time works, but it goes by fast the older you get. Y'all, remember that. Live in the damn moments because they fly by. Seconds feel like years and years feel like seconds. I can't say that enough. This week, I brought on Jeff Mortensen. He is an absolute joy of a human being, choreographer, gymnast, Ukrainian dancer, TV film superstar. I mean, the list goes on. But we not only spoke about his career in the industry, but also his take on both being a dancer growing up in Edmonton, Alberta, a smaller city, I guess, on the world map of entertainment cities, and then making his way to Los Angeles and booking some of his dream roles. We spoke about his transition between university and making the leap of faith to Las Vegas stage Cirque du Soleil. And we also spoke about his sort of mindset as he started to grow and mature throughout the audition process. And I think it's a really good conversation for anyone who is in the industry, but also outside of the industry and wants to just take a little insight into what it's like. So please give a warm, well-rounded applause for Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to get rolling?
Let's do it.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, welcome, Jeff. It is such a pleasure to be chatting with you. For listeners that don't know Jeff, I mean, you're an absolute legend in this industry, and I would love for you to give just like a brief Coles Notes about kind of your experience, who you are, what you do, so listeners that aren't in the industry can at least get a better idea of who I'm chatting with.
Sure thing. Yeah, so I guess from a work perspective, I'm a choreographer here in Vancouver. I started growing up in Edmonton, Alberta, and grew up Ukrainian dancing and doing men's artistic gymnastics. At the age of 19, I moved to Vegas and ended up working with Cirque du Soleil for a year. And after that, moved to Vancouver, started training all different styles because that was the first year of So You Think You Can Dance in the States. That's yes. So if we're giving time frame, you can now kind of guess how old I am. But yeah, so I moved to Vancouver to train because I wanted to do So You Think You Can Dance. Auditioned for the third season of the Canadian version of the show, got on the show, and that was sort of my first foray into dance on film, dance on camera. So from that experience, I really just kept working in film. Thankfully, the timing was right, my training was right, and yeah, my career has really just kind of flowed into that. I have worked on all of the Descendants movies. I did a choreographed a zombies movie, all with Disney Channel. Was part of the choreography team for Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, as well as the Grease Rise of the Pink Ladies Paramount Plus TV series. So yeah, we've done a few things over the years. But yeah, I'm just really thankful for timing for what I think is the biggest thing of it all is timing.
Is that really what you would say? Really? Like that you think it comes down to the timing of when you entered into the industry?
I think a massive part of people's success has everything to do with timing. Obviously, preparation needs to meet timing, but if you're never given the time, if the time never shows up for you to take the opportunity, that is where I think, like with most jobs, it just depends on who you meet and the timing of that and where they are in their life and how prepared you are in your life. So it I think all boils down to timing for me anyways.
Okay, that is a unique way to put it. There's something that it's called How I Built This. It's a podcast that I listen to. And his one question that he asks the host is always, do you believe in luck? And how much do you think that has had an influence on your career? I wonder if Because for me, timing coincides with luck.
Mhm.
And is it too much to say then that you would say luck has had a huge role in your career as well, or no?
I think it is a big piece of the pie. But luck can't really work its magic unless you're ready. And so
Mm.
I think because I prepared myself and was open to the experience and just who I am, also I love to learn. So I think because of that sort of internal drive met with the chance or the luck or the timing or whatever you want to call it, I think it really has allowed um, me to step into the workroom with a good attitude, and that attitude has continued on to other jobs.
Okay, interesting. And so to take things back just a little bit, you were born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta. Let's hear it for the Oilers and everything else that's coming from Edmonton. Um, I'm curious to know what you would say because I'm trying to think back on the guests that I've had on. Not many, if any, actually yet have been from Edmonton. And so I'm wondering if you can give a little background as to what that looked like for you. Did you see a path forward, being in a city and growing up in a city where the industry isn't too big? It's not a hub, it's not Vancouver, and it's not Toronto, and it's not LA. What are your 2 cents on that, if you have any?
I mean, I know Edmonton gets a bad rap a lot of the time. I'm honestly so grateful I grew up there, especially at the time that I grew up there. Like we grew up on the south side of the city, where like we were the last sort of community at the time on the south side, and then it was just fields. And so kind of the size
Not
of the
fields.
city, it really was fields. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
The city has changed greatly over the years, and I'm so thankful that I grew up there because, you know, in the wintertime, they're long and dark, and there's not a ton to do. And so thankfully, I was in gymnastics and Ukrainian dance. And so that really became a focus when I was a kid. It became sort of the escape
Hmm.
where my friends were, where I could escape the darkness of the actual day. um, and it was where I could really, put my energies in and really kind of devote myself to that. Most
Did
kids
you
in
grow up
Edmonton,
in?
uh,
Yeah, go for it.
I would say most kids in Edmonton grew up with hockey. And I
Yeah.
did try that when I was a kid, and soccer and all the sports. But the things that really stuck were Ukrainian dance and gymnastics.
That is so unique. Obviously, there's Ukrainian society here, and it's big, and I have actually quite a bit of friends that grew up doing it as well. But would you say that that played a big role into? Because I remember, actually, this is so funny. I remember seeing your So You Think You Can Dance footage and seeing there be Ukrainian influence in some of your So You Think You Can Dance. What is that little snippet? The live your dance for your life. Is that what it was?
Oh yeah,
Is that
I
what it's
did
called?
I did two Ukrainian solos on the show, and
Yes.
I'm really honestly, I look back at that and I'm so proud of myself for doing
Yeah.
that because it was not seen. Folk dance was not often seen on that show in both America and in Canada. And I look back and I'm just like, that actually is my training. That is what I grew up doing. I did not grow up doing ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop. That is not my background. My background is Ukrainian folk dance. And so I felt when I watched it again a couple of years ago, I was like, wow, I really did that on national television.
Like the strength involved with that style of dance is tremendous. And so to give listeners a little bit of color and insight into what Ukrainian dance is, could you maybe like explain if is it completely different than how a competitive dance class is structured? How and what does that environment look like?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, I first started at St. Basil's, which is in Edmonton, and ended up going into the Succ School of Dance, which then made my way into the Succ Dance Company, Ukrainian Succ Dancer Company. And when I was growing up, there was a Ukrainian syllabus, much like there is RID in ballet, like the Royal Academy, RID for ballet or Vaganova for ballet. Like there's a set prescribed syllabus. Ukrainian dance also had the same thing. And so we had similar things were shaped similarly in terms of having a syllabus, but instead of the content being ballet based, it was Ukrainian folk dance based. There's lots of movements that lend to each other. A lot of the guys, a lot of our movement sits in a grand plie the whole time, or big jumps, or
Come on,
quick
thighs.
feet, beaten, like things like this. But really, Ukrainian dance is a social dance. So solos, duos, like that's not really a thing that I grew up doing. It really is. It's a group social dance, and so the sense of community that was ingrained in me as a kid was really strong.
Mm. The I guess I'm trying to understand a little bit more of like how that influenced you now as a dancer, because you took a pivot and went obviously into commercial dance, or you have done commercial work, so I shouldn't assume that. But do you think that that has had an influence into the work that you did now as a young adult and then coming into your choreography journey as well?
Oh, for sure. I think because Ukrainian dance is community based, I had a real strong sense of teamwork,
Hmm.
knowing that it's, even if there is a leader at the front of the room, it is a collective push to make that a success. And so, yeah, when I now am at the front of the room, that is something that I greatly value in team members, and also on the back end of that, making sure that that team is recognized, because yeah, it is not a singular push. I might have a vision in my head, but it still takes a team to create that vision. So yeah, I think Ukrainian dance really helped with teamwork skills, to be honest.
That is so neat to hear. There's not too many people that I know off the top of my head that has the same background as you. Did your parents have you, like, were they supportive of your journey in the arts?
You know, my parents were supportive of me, but I do distinctly remember, like, when I was going to the University of Alberta, they were very supportive of that. They said, "We will support you. We will help fund that journey of your life if that's what you choose. But if you choose to not go to school, you're going to be on your own. So you have to figure that out on your own." And that was a very black and white conversation that we had with my parents. Um, so yeah, they were supportive of me and my endeavors, but they expressed that support in other ways other than financial support.
How did you have the guts then to go, noted, thank you, I'm still gonna now move to LA?
I never wanted to move to LA. I so that conversation happened before I got my job with Cirque in Vegas when I was 19. So I was going to university at the time. There was an audition for Cirque in Montreal, and I had expressed interest many years prior. And both of my parents were like, "Jeffrey, just finish high school. You need to finish high school, and then you can do whatever you want." So I finished high school, did university, still wanted to do Cirque. And so
And graduated from
I
university?
said one more time, "I really want to do this." Sorry, say that again.
Did you graduate? Did you finish your degree at university?
No,
I feel like
I did a year and a half of university.
okay. I
Sorry,
can hear you.
we have a
I know.
little.
A
Can you
little
hear me?
blip. Yeah, I can now.
Okay. So I did a year and a half of university, and an audition for Cirque came up, and I was like, I really want to do this. It's something that is still calling me. I was still doing Shumka at the time. And so I saved my money. I booked my flight. I stayed at a hostel. I like everything was on my own dime and scheduled it, auditioned for the company as a gymnast because that was really kind of the main that was my main training. I was training 20 hours a week. Dance was like the fun thing I did on the side. And I went on tour with my Ukrainian dance company to China and Ukraine. And when I came back, it was like midsummer. My family and I were going out to the lake. We had just gotten caller ID, and there was this 702 number that kept calling. And of course, we're like, oh, it's a scam caller or whatever. It's, what advertising or whatever. And so we're going out to our cabin at the lake, and the phone rang, the 702 number again. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to answer it. It was Krista Monson from Cirque du Soleil in Vegas. She's like, we've been trying to get a hold of you. We're really interested for you for this role in the Beatles Love Show. We would love to fly you down to audition for this role. Let me know if you're interested. And I was like, what?
So they called you and told you that they're going to fly you to Vegas to audition for a specific role? Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So I flew to Vegas, did the audition, booked the role, and that was kind of my departure from post-secondary education, from, I would say, the more common pathway that people take. And so, yeah, that was that.
And was it acknowledged by your family and yourself of that leap, like that sort of holy crap, this is now, I'm now a professional. Like I've now just got booked my first professional job, or was that not really, did it not settle in at that point?
I would say like Cirque was definitely a great way to start my career. It's a huge company, and in Vegas, I had so many family and friends come and watch me perform, and there is a sense of quote unquote legitimacy when you work for a big company, especially in the arts world, because people know it, and if it's famous, people are like, oh yeah, I know that. You must be successful. And so that definitely was a good way to start my career. Things didn't last to that degree
Nor
for
do they
many years
ever.
after. But yeah, my
Wait,
parents
no,
have,
it's important for us to pause there, I think, just because, Jeff, you're saying that you booked a pinnacle opportunity, and coming out of that, it wasn't just a green light to get every single job out of that. Like you
oh
still
God,
had
no.
to, yeah.
Oh
Can you
God, no.
maybe can you spend a little bit there, because I think it's so not known to the public's eye that you book one role, it is not guaranteed that you're going to book another. Period.
No, like, and what I will say was helpful for Cirque is that when I did audition for So You Think You Can Dance, I had this backstory, and so from a producerial perspective, it's intriguing. It's another famous name, Canadian name, especially for Canadian content television, which was So You Think You Can Dance Canada. So I recognize that experience helped shuttle that experience for me on So You Think You Can Dance Canada. But after So You Think You Can Dance Canada, like there was no guarantee for jobs. I auditioned for so many jobs that I never got, and things that I would have loved to have gotten, things that I would have loved to have gotten. We can edit that, right?
Jeff Mortensen still
um,
learning how to say a sentence.
but yeah, what I will say too is like out of the things that I did not succeed at, or what I at the time presumed to be a loss, I really and this is something that I think is just maybe innate to myself, is I always try to find the learning lesson in every experience, good or bad. And I remember this one Lady Gaga audition in LA. It was a cattle call audition, and there were it was over like 3 days or something, and there were probably 800 to 1,000 guys auditioning for this tour, or I don't even remember what it was for. And on the like breakdown, it was like, come in your fashion forward, this, that, and all the auditions prior for X Factor. And I'm like trying to wear all these crazy clothes and just, I'm like, this is a
Nipple
show. This is
tassels and
literally
neon
a
hair.
show. Yes, like this is too much. And so for the Lady Gaga audition, I remember it said like, come wearing avant-garde, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm going to swear, fuck that. I was like, this is not, I don't feel like myself in the audition. And I feel like a fool when I'm auditioning wearing things that I'm like, what am I wearing?
Like you
And
catch yourself in the
so
corner of your eye and you've got the ick. And then you, and me, because I'm thinking of similar experiences. You dress yourself up to try and fit the character that the description has requested of you, which is fair, but knowing that you're not going to feel yourself and you're not going to represent yourself in the way that you want to represent yourself, at least in my experience, and it sounds like in yours as well. And I think that that is so important for, if you are in this industry, if you are auditioning for any role, to know that, like, feel like, let yourself sink into whatever outfit you've chosen, whatever character you have in your head, and really understand, is this you authentically? Is this you? And like, it could be a stretch of a version of you, but if it's entirely not you at all, you're not going to execute that role well, at least in my experience, is all I can say.
I would agree with that 100%. And at this audition, I remember I was living with Megan Lawson in LA, and we had like a dress up closet for like costumes or just whatever. And I went in, and there were these like big, wide, sort of Martha Graham style modern pants. And I was
Ooh.
like, I'm going to wear those to the audition because it felt comfortable. And I'm like,
Edgy.
okay, living in LA, I'm like, we know that they love skin, so I'm gonna go shirtless. I'm gonna wear those high-waisted Martha Graham, like big billowy pants, and I'm gonna audition barefoot, like full modern vibes. But it's what I felt comfortable in at the time, and I go to the audition. Everyone is just makeup and hair and leather and wearing leather harnesses and
All the
giving the most.
accessories.
And I made it to the very end with my friend Gerald, and
Yes,
we're
Gerald.
we're standing in line, and I'm the only one wearing like something flowy. And I just remember looking in the mirror and seeing the line of guys. There were like 20 of us left, and I was
Jeez.
like, I know I'm not going to make this, but
Mm.
they kept me because I was so myself in the audition, and I was, yes, executing the choreography very well, but also there was something in me that I recognized. It was the first audition where I was like, oh, by me being me, I'm here.
Mm.
And so it actually didn't matter if I had made the cut or not. I didn't. Um, but that was a real learning lesson for me going forward with every audition after that. And
Right.
also something that I took with me now, being in the front of the room and looking at dancers and auditioning dancers and being like, the main thing that I just want to impart and encourage in all of the people that are auditioning for me is to be themselves. That's
Mm-hmm.
like it's the most clear string of truth that in a room full of people, it's so easy to pick that out when someone is themselves, and I'm interested in that. And so yeah, that was like a big takeaway lesson from a failure ultimately.
From a failure, and it sounds like you were in a opportunistic moment in your life where you were open to taking a risk of your own, because I think unless you had done some work before, unless you had started to mature, you wouldn't have realized that you can show up into a room still being yourself, regardless if 1,000 other dancers are different than you. You can still do that. You have the choice to do that, and you chose to. And I think it's a risk. You have to have courage, but you did it, and it was a pivotal moment, it sounds like, in your auditioning career after that, which is, I think, important for listeners and dancers in this industry to hear that, because it's okay for you to just show up who you are. And like you just said, the ones that are hosting the auditions are going to appreciate it and recognize it, for the most part, it sounds like.
And
I
this
have,
this is what
yeah.
I also learned from that too, is like they're gonna recognize and appreciate it, but I still wasn't right for the job. So that's where I'm like, I feel good having gone to the audition being myself, but also I feel good having not booked the job because I wasn't right for the job.
But I also, Jeff, what do you think? Because I was talking to Mo about this on my last episode, and we were just saying, like, if you do choose this as your career, pursue the arts, and you are putting yourself out there in audition rooms, if you expect to book every single one, then you are bound to just burn out, because you are continuing to feel that pressure of failure and success and failure and success. And it's just up and down and up and down. And it's not sustainable. However, I think that there's an opportunity to take away from that story you just said of, you were okay not booking that job because it's a career you're in. So it's almost like just a shift. You just put in a shift that day. That's it. You just clocked in for work that day. Like, I am a dancer, so I go to auditions, and I'm not going to book every single one, but it's still my job to do so. And luckily you love doing it. But I think that we can so often think, I'm auditioning, so failure is not getting it and success is booking it.
Yeah, totally.
But that, I don't know. The one thing that I really want to hear from you is what your take is, or I guess what your advice is for those that are in pressured situations, because as you said at the beginning of this episode, you talked about some of the roles that you have booked, and you are now, excelling above and beyond in a choreography role and directing role, I believe, as well. In these high pressured situations, when you started out starting to put the cap on of director and choreographer, and you were feeling some pressure, did you have any exercises, anything that got you through? Or was it just like you said, pulling from your Ukrainian background of being in a community environment and just pulling from people in the room?
Honestly, the thing that really pulled me through is experience. Um, you know, I know you had an interview with Louise, and she also said in her interview, like, we assisted for years. We were associates for years. And to have that experience behind you and to be able to observe and be very much a part of the choreography team, but ultimately witness the lead choreographer, like, the pressure, it's their name at the top. And so to see how they deal with things on the day to day, on the job, how, if they succumb to pressure, if they can push through it, the techniques or ways they angle their perspective to then move through an issue or move forward for a number or whatever it is, budgetary, logistical, whatever the issue is. Honestly, assisting and being an associate for so many years has really given me a huge arsenal of tactics that I can use. So if there's an issue that I'm running into, I have this plethora of like tricks that I can pull out of my bag and be like, oh, well, this, what about this? And what about that? I'm also not attached to any of those things. Like, I'm a true believer in the best idea wins, and that it goes for my own ideas. I'm like, if my ideas poo poo, I want to try it. And then if it doesn't work, we move on. So
Mm.
I think to be not precious about those types of things, I think really, maybe it's a bit of a superpower of mine. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that There's so I think I chuckle just because when you lay it out that clearly, it's a one of those like, well, duh moments. And I think to put it into perspective for anyone in any industry, doing your homework will allow you to pass the exam. Like doing the work up until that test day or that performance day or that audition or interview day, doing the assistant roles, doing the behind the scenes roles that you and, like you said, Louise did for so long, is doing your homework. You're studying and you're learning, and you might not know it at the time, but you're just adding tools to your tool belt or putting those tools in your bag, whatever that imagery might be in your head. And then when it comes to performance day or audition day, you're going to perform freaking well because you just put in the time and you studied and you know. And like you said, also, you're surrounded by, hopefully a good team of people that can bounce ideas off each other and drop the ego and realize like it's a matter of how well the team performs, not just how well my individual work performs. And I think obviously that's why you are such a legend in this industry, is because you know what a successful job looks like. It's if the team has succeeded, not if you have succeeded, or if your idea landed and was the one that they used, whatever it is. And
And
I think
thankfully,
I
every
yeah,
and thankfully everyone that I've worked with has been the same way. All of my mentors, all of the choreographers I've assisted or been their associates for, it they all share that, and that is like the one thing from all of those people that I've been able to work with, I've taken to the next job and I really value. So that's something that I really try to foster and cultivate in the room that I'm leading.
ooh, I really like that message. If I were to ask you about sort of your currents, what's happening in your life right now, are you able to share, or is there some stuff that you're working on that you can't share too much with?
Well, we had that lovely strike last year.
Oh yeah, that was
So
super fun.
yeah, that was super fun for all of us. And it's honestly been really slow to pick back up. I thankfully choreographed a movie earlier this summer with Tessa Tamara was my assistant, and yeah, we had a blast. It was great. It went really well. Producers were happy. The actors looked great, and it felt really good to like work again after the strike.
Totally.
But since then,
What is yeah?
there's not been a lot.
Do is that crickets I hear?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
right.
hear that across. I hear it across. Yeah, exactly. Across the board. Across the board, I've been hearing that. But that's just how this industry works. So you gotta be in it for the frickin' lows and those highs because they do come. But you just gotta be surrounded by good people, and you've always surrounded yourself by good people, at least from my eyes. I also, speaking of the people you surround yourself with, I know just on a little bit of social media shares and stuff that you spend a lot of time in Japan. I haven't been there. I would love to go to Japan. Um, is there like just off topic, like off industry topic? Is that somewhere that you see yourself living permanently, or do you just love it to just do that commute and you love spending time there? Just maybe give a little insight if you can.
Yeah, I so when I moved away from LA, I ended up moving to Japan for almost 2 years, and I loved it. I remember when I went there for vacation the first time, I was a little nervous because I I had this thought in the back of my mind where I was like, if I go here, I might never come back. And it
Ah.
really that really did happen for 2 years. I was like, I went for vacation, came back to Canada, got a visa, moved there, and was there for almost a year and a half after. So,
You
and
knew.
yeah, it's there's just a lot of inspiring things there. It is a place that feeds my imagination and really resonates kind of with a lot of the values and sort of spatial value that they hold there. It really resonates with me. So yeah, it is a place that I tend to fill up on creative ideas and has inspired a lot of the things that I'm working on personally. So yeah.
That is so unique. I love it. I hope to travel there soon because it is somewhere on this planet that I observe from afar and often wonder. I teach a lot of yoga. I practice it myself, obviously. And I would love to be in that environment. It seems so blissful and clean and organized, and I love it. And not to like assume things, but that is like I want to calm my mind, so I got to be in a calm environment. And Japan to me is perhaps what that would bring in. I don't know for sure, but um, I think to finish things off, because I'm well aware of time, I love to just bring lighthearted, couple fire round questions. So typically, I just ask away, guess, quickly answer. If there's any that don't land well for you, skip. But if you're ready, I'm just going to fire off a few.
Great.
Okay. So my favorite one, just death row meal. If you had one last meal on Earth.
Oh, good God. Probably steak and pierogies.
Okay. One place that you would like to, okay, so I know it'd probably be Japan, but live that you, not Japan and not somewhere that you've lived already, as in Canada.
I don't know, but a bucket list place for me to go before I die is Antarctica.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Um, a career that is not in the arts that you would choose if you couldn't do dance.
Maybe an architect or an optometrist.
I just got whiplash from that swing of career choices. Is there something that is, and this isn't really like a yes or no or fire round, but is there something that is leaving you sleepless at night? Not in such a bad way, but more just like it gets your mind wondering, like you're constantly thinking about it. Just a topic as of late.
Yeah, how dance can exist in I love my job. So the thing that I quite often think of is I make up these scenarios in my mind of how dance can exist in like a cop procedural that doesn't feel like it's dance, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um I'm really trying to crack my own personal code of kind of how dance can continue to push the story forward without it feeling removed from the storyline. And so yeah, I'm trying to come up with scenarios in my head. I literally lie awake at night for hours until like 2 or 3 in the morning thinking about some of these things.
I don't know why visuals just came to my mind of ancestral sort of heritage dances that you would do in a community that's more of a conversation and less of a performance. I love that. My brain's going now too. Okay, and last but not least, it's for some reason it gets deep, but it doesn't have to be deep. Tim Ferriss likes to say if you could have one statement on a billboard, what would it be? But I actually think my biggest thing I think about is what would my tombstone say after I leave? What would I want other people to read or remember me by? So, what would a tombstone message be for you?
Probably watch and wait.
Oh, gosh, leave it to you. So good.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that too. I just actually had a big inhale and exhale. This was such a pleasure. I thank you for dealing with those technical issues at the start there. Man, I love observing you. I love watching the work that you do. It's always of the utmost quality, and you conduct a room like I've never seen. So, kudos for everything that you've done in your career, and I can't wait to see what you continue to do.
Thanks, Briggs. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
You too. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye. That was an absolute pleasure, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I know, team, that last week there was no episode, but that is because I am really honing in and narrowing down the workflows of being a podcaster. I am trying to bring you quality content, and in that, I have to make sure that the proper guests are lined up, and I am targeting the audience members that have engaged with me and want to learn more about the industry, but also aspects outside of the industry. It's an absolute dream of mine to continue to host these podcast episodes, so I'm so grateful for you all to have subscribed to the show, to show your support in any way, shape, or form. That is truly how I can maintain recording these every single week. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being interested in leaving Average for Joe. All right, team, same time next week. Have a good day.